Hearing this, my assistants and nurses couldn't help but laugh, their dissatisfaction even more obvious in their eyes. They could only push Matthew and Sophie into the operating room. I brought the medical camera into the operating room ahead of time, then instructed the nurses to take photos from every angle. Matthew heard the sound and turned his head to look over while lying on the bed. He said, "What are you doing? Why are you taking photos in the operating room? This is an invasion of our privacy. I'll sue you, believe it or not." I sneered inwardly, but remained calm on the surface. I replied evenly, "Every angle on the operating table needs to be documented. This way we can better consult with professors and develop a reasonable surgical plan. If you're unwilling, then forget it." I deliberately put away the camera and turned to walk out. "Wait, we didn't say we were unwilling." Seeing me about to leave, Sophie hurriedly called out anxiously. She was lying on top of Matthew in a particularly awkward position. Even in this situation, she still lowered her head to persuade Matthew, "Matthew, the most important thing now is to get us separated quickly. We can't delay until Elizabeth comes to work tomorrow. If she finds out, things will be terrible." Matthew was still being stubborn. He roared, "How is that possible? All my family's assets are in my name. When the time comes, I'll just tell Elizabeth to get lost." "But wait, why does your voice sound so much like Elizabeth?" Halfway through speaking, he turned his head to stare at me. His body was still stuck and couldn't move, but his mouth wouldn't stay quiet, looking at me with suspicious eyes. I froze. To change my voice and body shape, I had deliberately put cotton balls in my mouth, wore a mask, and even put on several extra lab coats to alter my figure. Could he still recognize me like this? Before I could think of a countermeasure, Matthew smiled smugly again. He said, "But looking at your reaction, you're definitely not Elizabeth. Elizabeth is the type who gets carried away by emotions. She goes crazy and fights with me just from discovering I'm chatting with other women. If she really saw me like this now, she'd probably have fainted already." Hearing his words, Sophie immediately burst into laughter. She said, "Yes, Matthew, do you remember when I deliberately left a piece of underwear in your car last time?" Elizabeth's reaction was absolutely devastating. "She called me crying in the middle of the night, not knowing that you were with me at that time." Matthew couldn't help but laugh too after hearing this, but after just a few laughs, his movements were too big and pulled at his body, making him cry out in pain again. The nurse nearby couldn't help but roll her eyes. She said quietly, "You're cheating and you're actually proud of it. Your wife is so unlucky. You two are really a pair of bastards." The nurses responsible for this surgery were all transferred from other departments. They didn't recognize me, so naturally they didn't know I was the Elizabeth they were talking about. Matthew endured the pain, his face flushed red. He said, "What do you know? Sophie and I share true love. Otherwise, how would we end up like this here? A man only gets like this for the woman he truly loves. He can't get hard for women he doesn't love. Just like me, I never touch Elizabeth." Hearing his words, I felt nothing but disgust. Without the memories from my previous life, I never would have imagined that Matthew, who had always been so compliant with me and said I was the person he loved most in this lifetime, had actually been scheming for my assets from the very beginning. As for that pair of underwear, Matthew later explained to me that it belonged to his mother, but I never thought that was also a lie. This pair of bastards was truly disgusting. Thinking of this, the hatred in my heart grew even stronger. I took a deep breath and said, "Please lie still. I've already thought of the most reasonable surgical plan." With that, I picked up the scalpel and walked directly toward where their bodies were stuck together.